Hey there, it's Chris Hogg, and we are live at Inventures, and I'm super excited to be sitting down with Wunmi Adekanmbi. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
So Wunmi, you do a bunch of different things, but I wanted to see if we could sort of unpack some of the work you're doing as Executive Director at Immigrant Techies. Tell us about the organization and what you do.
Yeah, Immigrant Techies Network is a nonprofit organization that we incorporated 2 years ago. But before that, we had existed as a grassroots community organization for about 5 to 6 years. And it was really designed to solve for the gap that was in the intersection of immigrant support and the tech ecosystem talent development. So when I kind of found my way, stumbled into the tech ecosystem, I soon found out that there wasn't enough immigrants that were aware of all the innovation that was happening in tech, because people typically think about Alberta and think oil and gas. And so Immigrant Techies, we created that to help immigrant professionals gain awareness, demystify, and get involved in tech careers and startups. And also, talent is a huge pillar for tech ecosystem development, and the immigrant talent pool is really rich, so it's also another way of supplying talent for tech. So we're in that intersection.
And you spoke at the MESH conference a little bit about some of your journey, and if I'm not mistaken, it was 2020 when you looked at the ecosystem. What were you seeing? And I think you were hearing that people couldn't find talent. And
yes, so a little backstory. So why I was interested to begin with, what fueled my curiosity was that I had friends that were coming into Canada, and they were telling me they were not coming to Alberta because it was not a great time for oil and gas. And so they said they were going to Toronto or Vancouver, and I was like, no, there's a lot of good stuff in Alberta. So I'm like, I went out looking for points, to use to tell them that, look, this is going on for us, this is going on for us. And that was when I got interested in what the economic diversification strategy for Alberta, Calgary was. And then I stumbled into the tech ecosystem. So I was so excited about all the cool stuff that was happening, the energy, the speed of collaboration. It was different from everything I had ever seen in corporate Canada before. And then, but then I saw that, there were a lot of immigrants that were in that space, that were aware. So it was like, once I found my way into the ecosystem, I felt welcome, but there was no invitation. So creating Immigrant Techies for me was like my invitation to immigrants to Alberta Tech. That this is your invitation. If you ever was waiting to be called in, this is it for you.
Where is the system broken? Like, can you tell us sort of about the journey of an immigrant coming to Calgary, to Alberta, wants to get involved in technology? Where do the steps break down, and what needs to fix?
Like now or when I came in?
Now, or you're looking to fix it, I know that.
Right.
But talk to us a little bit, shed some light onto what's the systemic issue that needs to be resolved.
I have to say it's a lot better now than when I came in 14 years ago. Then there are immigrant support programs. And I like to say that it's not even an issue of funding. It's not like there's a lot of money going into immigrant support. It's a problem of design. So what's being designed, what kind of solutions, and who's designing them? How are they testing it? So the kind of programs that were available when I came in, they assumed that as a newcomer you start from scratch, no questions asked, and it was an attitude of, we're helping these immigrants. Let's throw them a bone. Let's do something for them. It looked more like it made the designers feel good about themselves, that they were at least doing something. But we coming in with lived experience, knowing where the pain points are, we know what doesn't work. So in the design, we make sure that what didn't make the other things work, we have accounted for it. So now it's better. And even at that, the problem is that of Canadian experience. I like to do this anytime I talk about Canadian experience, because we've designed solutions around it, not because we agree the problem should exist, right? So when you're working in a broken system, it's an intervention. You do things to correct the problem, not that you validate the problem itself. So the what's mostly broken is that Canadian experience. And you won't see it on job descriptions. They don't actually put it there, but it's one of the things they look for. So if it's not on job descriptions, you can't really fight it. You can't legislate against it,
Mm-hmm.
But when I talk to recruiters one-on-one, they tell me that, that's the reason this employer told me not to consider this client, because they are not sure if they can work in Canada. So that Canadian experience, I would say, is the primary challenge.
One thing I think is also really interesting is you've described innovation as bringing together systems that don't usually talk. I thought that was a really interesting point, like the nonprofit world, the technology world, or early founders and immigrant professionals.
Yes.
What has that approach revealed to you about the system, the innovation system?
I think we look for shiny things. When we hear innovation, everybody thinks it has to be shiny, it has to be an invention, it might need to be new or cool, or but sometimes they're just the commonsensical stuff. Like if we have early stage founders, and we do that, they don't have any product, they don't have any prototype. Because of that, they can't truly validate, and because they've not validated, they can't raise fund. And because they've not raised funds, they can't do anything. So it becomes this vicious cycle. So we recognize that problem. And there are very few investors or even community support that are very enthusiastic about idea stage founders, because they're high risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, we have immigrant professionals that have the skill sets we need, and they are misaligned. They're working at coffee shops and all of that. So we have people that can solve the problem of this other group of founders, and they are misaligned. It kind of just doesn't make sense. So innovation in that case just means bringing two systems that people see as problems, as isolated problems, and then define it together and create one solution that solves both problems. So the professionals get experience, they gain relationships with founders, and then the founders get the early stage support they need in product development. So that's one example.
You're also here at Inventures, and you spoke with some colleagues about immigrant networks and infrastructure for international trade, which I think is a really interesting and needed and timely conversation.
Absolutely.
As we think about growth and scaling and the need for talent. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about some of the takeaways of what you're discussing at this event here. Yes.
So our session was about leveraging immigrant networks to expand trade relationships. And the population of immigrants we have in Canada, not just the population, the representation from all the different parts of the world is already a trade advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we have relationships we can leverage on. We have business networks. We have informal networks. I was joking with people on the session that a lot more trade happens sometimes on WhatsApp chats than in some incubator program,
mm-hmm.
where people are just informally, organically engaging and selling and trading. And many immigrant cultures are also very relationship rich. So they honor relationships, they build relationships. And it's easy to call your cousin in another continent and say, my company is looking to sell products in this community. Do you know any group that might need this product? Like, informally, these things can be done so informally. And so it's a loss that whatever trade strategy is, it does not involve diaspora engagement, because imagine all that can be done, what can be leveraged. And of course, I can say we've been comfortable for so long. We had a steady trade partner, and we didn't ever have to worry about that. But if there was ever a time to start rethinking who we are building relationships with, where we are selling to, it is now. And take Africa, for example. Africa has an average population age of 19. And when you call it an economy, a developing economy,
mm-hmm.
so a developing means there's development potential. So lots of infrastructure development, lots of growth of the middle class. So consumer behavior is rising, as well as opportunity for infrastructure development partnership. The government are looking for foreign partnerships to build high-tech product initiatives like data centers, road construction, mining, and honestly, China is winning big already on these deals in Africa, and Canadian investors are still being very conservative the way we usually are. So we just wanted to get that conversation started to say the unlikely markets, they are actually richer than we know.
So for organizations here, whether it's a startup, a scale-up, a large corporate that wants to expand, they need talent, they're looking for opportunities like the international trade and tapping into the diaspora. How do they work with an organization like you or like Immigrant Techies? For the purpose of hiring, networking, like how do you engage? Like what does a relationship look like? So for on the Immigrant Techies side, because we have we have a very rich immigrant talent pool, and so one good thing that we do also is we partner with companies to say, what do you find hard to fill? What talents do you find hard to find? Can we grow them for you? Because the pace of change of technology, advancement, innovation, new technology, we have to be growing the talent alongside. We can't wait until we need them to start looking for them and then to start growing them. It's too late by then. So hydrogen or, all this new stuff, what does it mean to have a talent strategy in parallel with all the innovation initiatives? So if you're a company and the immigrant talent pool is like you having a good stock. When you have a good stock, you can add this seasoning and that, and then you can create anything you want. So we have a very good stock with the immigrant talent pool. Sometimes you just need to layer on an additional skill set, a short training, a capstone project. Sometimes what you need to infuse is really small, it's low energy, and then you're getting the kind of talent you need. So we partner with people like that to grow this type of talent they want. And then also, so outside of Immigrant Techies, I also consult for a consulting company that gives advisory services to companies that want to expand into Africa. So that is something we can also directly help with. If you need local partners in those local economies, or you're looking for distribution channels, we can facilitate that. At Mesh, you also talked, and this I think is maybe through Reskill Calgary, correct me if I'm wrong, you offer something, or there's the ability to rent a team. Tell us about that. Yes. So rent a team. We got a grant to run a program we called Pathway Pro. And it was to solve the Canadian experience problem, where we bring in newcomers with software development, software product development experience, and they work with a founder or with an established company. They build a product, they gain experience, they get senior mentorship mentorship experience from senior industry professionals. And so we ran out of the grant. And now we want to continue to be able to give that value. So what we did with Rent a Team is software development venture studio below the cost, below the market rate. And the reason we are able to do that, so for the immigrant professionals, our value proposition to them is, we know you're already doing survival jobs. So we're not trying to undersell them, but we're saying, instead of going to stock shelves at Walmart, would you rather code for the same amount of money, right? So that way you're continuing to build on your skills. And we know that technology skills, if you don't use them, you lose them, right? Yeah. So being able to continue to practice your skills, building relationships where you want it to be, is already an advantage. And then for the founders, we're really focusing on those early stage founders. They get the least support. And if I can do a quick segue there, we're focusing a lot more on the scale-ups, on the ones that have the higher potential of return. But if we don't grow them from the ones that we know 90% of them will fail, we will not find the one that won't fail. So that diverting support away from early stage is going to hurt us in the long term. So anyway, we are there. We're saying early stage,
you don't even know what your product is going to look like, you really should not be spending a lot of money on it at this early stage, because you're going to pivot it, you're going to change things. But we can help you at a fraction of the price so that you get something going to validate the problem, or maybe validate that the problem does not exist, whatever it is. And then we're supporting the founder as well. So that's what Rent a Team is. They can grow a team, and it's on demand. It doesn't have to be a full-time employment, because we know they probably can't afford that. So it could be a small project, a few hours, a particular design that you want to do, or so it's customizable, meets the needs of founders where they are,
filling a needed skills gap too. So
at the same time, yes.
Your final thoughts. I'd love to know. You talk about design when we started this conversation, that who the system is designed by and for, and you're actively looking to design new paths forward. If we're designing a system that truly worked for everyone, are there the next steps? Like, where do we need to focus on change? What are you focused on for the next steps to continue to optimize this? What should we watch out for?
Specifically, or
coming from you? Yeah.
Okay.
You're actively involved in changing and trying things and experimentation and actually building things like Rent a Team. You're designing the system as you go. So where do you go next?
For us, so what we are working on right now, trying to put together, is around artificial intelligence. And the goal is, what does it really look like beyond the buzz, beyond all the talk? How are people really using it to optimize their work? And the way I challenge immigrant professionals is, we know you're good at what you do, you're a good designer already. But if you don't learn how to use AI to work faster or more efficiently, you'll be replaced by another good designer that does. So what does it really look like to equip our talent with AI and other tools? And this is not just for people looking for work. We're talking about for organizations, your existing talent. What does creating a future-ready talent workforce really look like? And a lot of it needs to go beyond talk. We do a lot of talking around these things, but we need to put structures in place. So what does it mean? We are partnering with companies to bring in training to them, or even for immigrant professionals that have not secured jobs yet, how can we layer on an AI training? So something we're working on is for every whatever discipline you're in, you learn how to use AI to optimize, to use it better, build agents. And then to practice what you've learned, you are working with a mom and pop kind of SME to automate their own workflows. So again, I like bringing two things together, right?
And making it practical and real.
Exactly.
Wunmi, thank you so much for telling your story.
Thank you for having me. Totally.
For more information on Wunmi's journey, learning more about Immigrant Techies, and all things that are happening in Alberta, visit digitaljournal.com.